was on the Institute's agenda in their mission, I can get funded ahead of you, even though your grant was back. Know what the Institute is interested in. This will become more important in the future because the range of broad impact scores is narrower. And when you have scores that are the same, what are they going to look at? Institute mission. Did you see something that's important to them? Again, not a soothsayer, no crystal ball. This one's common sense. What determines which awards are made? Scientific merit, research and development, oh my goodness. Program considerations, how much money? And I want to end with the clear identification of the 5 core review criteria that are used to evaluate your research plan. And I use this graphic of the 6 blind men and the elephant because previously, there was a time when you would get a summary statement back from the NIH, and it would discuss so many different things, and you would think, you know, what's the emphasis here? What are the salient, most important criticisms? Prior to Dr. Zerhouni's tenure at the NIH, the last director there standardized the review criteria, Dr. Holmes. There are 5 review criteria. They have now been slightly amended. I'm giving you the amended criteria. This is what your grant will be evaluated upon beginning in 2009. These are very close to what they were evaluating. Very slight changes, very, very slight in terms of the review criteria. But I want you to look at these. Significance, did you address an important problem? Approach, did you come up with the best design, the best methods to carry out your aims? Did you acknowledge potential problems and consider alternative tactics? Innovation, is there something new? Did you come up with some challenge to existing thought in the field? Did you develop something new, use a novel concept? Do you, investigator, are you the right PI? Do you have the right training, the background? Did you bring together the right team? Environment, what will your environment contribute to your success? Did you take advantage of the unique features of your environment? Did you, is there evidence of institutional support? Are they committing protected time for you? These are the 5 review criteria, and these should really sound familiar to you at this point. And the reason why I'm introducing them now, instead of at the beginning, during our discussion over these 2 days, these are the points that I've been hammering at you to include in your grants. I hope it's obvious now why, because this is how you're evaluated. We always write a grant to address the review criteria by which we'll be evaluated. Significance, innovation, are you the right PI and your team? Did you come up with the best approach to carrying out the research? And what about the environment will help you succeed? One other factor in review, protection of human subjects. Protection of human subjects is huge, and the review criteria now, the bar that one has to jump over for protecting human subjects, I would say is going up, particularly for what we call vulnerable subjects. So be aware of that. And I end, and I think I've covered this, about the review of new investigators. We certainly expect to see more new investigators funded, particularly for R01s. The NIH puts its emphasis on R01s because that's the basis for medical research in this country. So the NIH has now pledged, it's interesting, Dr. Zerhouni is sort of his last legacy, if you will. He mandated that at the NIH, the percentage of grants funded for new investigators in the future must equal the percentage of experienced investigators. And this will be huge. We can expect to see a very significant jump in the number of new investigators who are funded. And this is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing for new investigators, and it's good for science. Science needs new ideas, and you guys know that better than I. You guys are scientists, I'm not, but I certainly do know that science benefits from new people's ideas. I think we will see this in the future, there's no question in my mind. So I end by just giving you the basically the final points I haven't covered about the changes to peer review and where they came from. In 2007 and 2008, the NIH engaged in this very large scale, what they called the peer review self-study. And basically, the reason why they were looking at the peer review system, it's obvious that changes to peer review are needed. There's so many applications now, and science has changed. It's more complex, it's more interdisciplinary. So how to address these changes? So the NIH engaged in this two-phase approach, a diagnostic approach and an implementation phase. The diagnostic phase is completely done. We are just beginning the implementation phase, so it's actually a very exciting time. The diagnostic phase identified 7 major challenges, which I'm not going to read to you, but I wanted you to have them so you could know what the real problem areas were in the eyes of the NIH. But here's what I want you to know that will affect you. The recommended actions that will now impact you as a new investigator, and there are just a couple. The goal now is to reduce the number of applications. It's been absurd. People write the first application, they write a revised application, and they do a second revision. Not only is it crazy in terms of the amount of time that they spend, but it has really skewed the review. Again, human nature being what it is, if you're in a study section and you're getting a second revision of an application, that's that investigator's last shot. They're not allowed a third revision, the original, first, and second. And you're thinking, well, you know, it's their last shot. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there. Whereas you have this new investigator coming in with an application, and you're thinking, they have 2 more times to revise. It's not good for science. It is not good for science. So the NIH has made a lot of changes so that this no longer occurs. Number 1, they're going to make a much, they're going to give much less ambiguous feedback. Some of the feedback in the past, it's been very hard to figure out what they want. There is going to be a new category. We have not seen it yet, but it'll be called not recommended for resubmission. And I think that'll be very helpful in terms of taking some of the guesswork out whether you should come in with a new idea or not. And they will, as I said before, provide scores for all applications so you know if you were close to being funded. They're going to focus on the merit of your science, and this is so important, as opposed to the potential improvement that could be realized following a revision. And that really has been what's been going on, in my opinion. There's been like this special status for amended applications. In general, all applications, even a revised one, it's like it's going to be considered a new application. It's not going to be looked at, oh, well, they revised this, and how could this be, if this is revised again, what, how might it be improved? It's look, here's the revised application. You're allowed to revise it. What is the science of this application compared to this application? We're not giving you any special brownie points for having revised it or for having revised it a second time. Here's the application, here's this application, which is a new application. This one's revised, this one's new. What's the merit of the science, the impact? So I think it'll be much fairer. As I said before, the length of the application will be shortened, but that is certainly not true this year. That is projected to happen in 2010. At that time, we will see less emphasis on methodological details. Until that time, go with what we've discussed today. Emphasize the details in research design and methods. We're a year away from this change, at least. Early career investigators, I said, are going to be funded on a par with established PIs. Different types of science will be promoted. There are going to be some new, better use of new grants. There are these grants to promote exceptionally creative science. So we'll see that. We'll see a better review of clinical research. More clinicians. You can expect to see more clinicians on the study section. You think, what in the world would lead a busy clinician to do that? The NIH is making it worth their time. A clinician who sits on a study section, again, we don't know everything that's going to be done, but we certainly know that they will be given a lot of leeway as to they can apply for a grant at any time. They don't have to go with the standard deadline. So they're going to try and make this much more attractive to them. There'll be review boards set up specifically for interdisciplinary research, and again, I think that'll be